Well, it's just 9 minutes after the hour at 10 o'clock. Welcome. We continue with Extra in Extra. My name is Uganda. Still, welcome back from the break. Now, joining me in studios is Mr. Paul Bukenya, the spokesperson of the National Electoral Commission. You're very welcome, Mr. Bukenya.
Thank you, Bwana Jagenda, and I'm glad to be on UBC this morning.
Thank you very much. This is home for you. We thank you so much that whenever we call on you, you're always there and you normally come. Well, what is happening now is you're mobilizing for national verification of administrative units.
True.
What are these administrative units to start with?
Well, an administrative unit is it's a geographical area by name. For example, a village is an administrative unit.
Radio Uganda Village.
Radio Uganda Village is called an administrative unit. So, and then the parish in which we are located is also called an administrative unit. It's a unit of administration. You know, it has leadership and it can be represented. For example, a parish is represented at the sub-county, so it becomes an administrative unit.
Okay.
But for purposes of local government, when you're talking about administrative units, we are talking about lower local governments. That means LC2 and LC1, because LC3 is a local government. It's a full government. They are elected by universal suffrage and all that, and they get funding and they run programs. Then, of course, LC5. So administrative units, in brief, that's what we mean when we refer to administrative units.
Very important. Now, you know, when you talk about electoral commission and they talk about verification, they talk about this, you're conducting this mobilization for this. We've just had an election, and to many Ugandans, the election is a collegiate election. So it is too soon for you to come back and now talk about any verifications, and because people don't seem to understand these elections at the lower level. We are preoccupied by the elections there, and somebody thinking, why should the Electoral Commission come back to us now to talk about anything to do with verifications of elections, etc.? Why now?
Sure. General elections are held when a term of office is expiring for those officers whose term is 5 years, and for whom we organize elections according to the Constitution. For example, presidential, parliamentary, and local government. Local government, seated district, municipality, up to sub-county. Administrative units have a unique electoral calendar. They don't follow, they are not under general elections, and their elections are organized and conducted using a separate timeline. Why? Because first of all, they are village based. They progress from the village up to the national, and they are village based. And when a village is an election is village based, the village becomes a polling station, for example. So as opposed to general elections where we have 3 villages at a polling station, we're using a national voters register. Village elections are organized at the village level, where each village is a polling station. So that makes a difference. So we cannot organize the 2 elections together.
For the national election, we have about 30,000 polling stations.
Polling stations.
For these elections, we have over 70,000.
Every village becomes a polling station because they organize. That we're talking about LC1. They are organized, and then the residents are registered. It is based on a village residents register. The national voters register is based on the parish. A person who is in Nakasero parish, like where we are now, can register and be located at any polling station within Nakasero parish. But for purposes of administrative unit selection, you use the village. The village stands out. It is the administrative unit, and it becomes a polling station. So for purposes of these elections, that's why we have 70,512 polling stations, because that's the number of villages, as opposed to the number you've given us of 30,000 plus for purposes of general elections. So I think that's the difference. Their representation is different, but again, they could not be held together. For example, women councils elections, their term is 4 years. It's not 5 years. So for the women councils and committees elections, and they also progress from the village. That's why LC1 elections and LC2 elections and women councils elections are held outside the general elections calendar.
Okay, very important. Now, what exercise is this that you are running as a commission? When do you start, when do you end, and what do you want to achieve after this campaign?
We are conducting what we call a verification exercise.
To verify
and confirm the administrative units that we have in the country. And the background is that when we organized and conducted LC1 elections in 2018 and women councils elections in 2018, we came across several challenges which frustrated the in many areas, frustrated successful organization of the elections. For example, we had villages whose legality was challenged. No, this village is not established by law. It doesn't have a statutory instrument. We don't know it. And then there would be disputes over that. There were disputes of boundaries. Our village has such and such boundaries. No, this is our boundary.
These voters don't belong to our village.
They belong here, they're residents. So it caused challenges in the organization of the 2018 elections. Then we have those villages where there were disputes that we are placed in a wrong parish. We should be in the other parish. So, and they would go back and forth, and it would be hard to organize elections in some areas. Of course, we had some elections whose names were, villages whose names were also in dispute. And also, importantly, we had some villages which were challenged, where there were disputes that you are located in a forest reserve. You are located in a conservation areas. And if you go back, and I know as a journalist, you know that some of the complaints arising out of LC1 elections went up to magistrates court. They even went up to high court. And these are some of the reasons. So what we've done is to say that as we prepare to organize the elections, women elections will be held in 2022 between June this year and August. And LC elections will be conducted on polling. The polling dates will be in July and August next year. We said before we go back, let's go and verify and confirm the admin units with the structures of government, local government and all that, so that we have a harmonized list, and then we can organize elections for those units without the above, having addressed the above challenges.
In July, August 2018, when we had the LC1 elections, LC elections, we had about 9 villages or so in the country. How many didn't? There was a very small number of those actually that did not go through that exercise. What happened later? Did you go back to actually clean, harmonize, and make sure that these villages also have, or we have any villages until now that do not have elected leadership?
There are some areas where LC issues, where some LC elections are not organized, partly because of local issues. For example, we had some parts of Tororo district where the elections were not held. But largely the reasons I've given above, of course, frustrated our conduct of elections in some of those areas. But we're able to, when we don't organize elections today, we can always come back tomorrow or the following day within the period given by law. We managed to resolve some issues, but some remained pending up to now. And we think we should address them. I don't have the number of the total number of the villages that where we totally could not hold the elections. I have not captured that, but certainly they are there in our system. And that creates a gap, because LC1 is a foundational structure, and it is key in the local government structure, and also in service delivery. And now we want to be so sure and resolve those issues so that we go and organize even for those people who had disputes. We need to resolve them before we conduct the elections again.
How long are you doing the verification now for these administrative units?
Basically, it is an activity that is done over a period of time. For example, we started at the beginning of Feb to do what you would call technical desk work. Sourcing for units from local government, looking at them, harmonizing databases, and also looking through the complaints and identifying problematic areas. But the actual, what we call the actual field work, where we now come into the field, starts today and it will last for 10 days. It goes up to the 26th of March. And then it will be followed by other processing, data processing, complaints hearing. And so the final activity is supposed to be done, and the lists will be released in May. We've put a date of May 13th. So it's quite a process. It involves several stages. Some are done out there in the field, at the districts, others at the sub-county, others at the headquarters here on the desks with the technical teams, and others in meetings with local government officials.
Is this predominantly something that you are doing as a commission, or you also involve with the stakeholders? Because why would you even come on TV, tell us what you're doing if you can just plot it and find out and know, yes, we have 70,512 districts, we have 10,259 parishes across the country, etc. What do you expect from we now, the Wananchi, during this period of verification?
Well, the questions, the petitions, the complaints, and the disputes came from us, from the people. So I think it's important that we let Ugandans know that we've come out with a program to resolve those issues that were raised at that time. They were raised by the residents of the villages. So you need to know what we are doing so that we resolve issues together. And for that reason, this exercise is participatory. Technical as it sounds, it is participatory. You need to know what's happening in your village. Do you know your village, for example? Do you know your village name? Do you know your village boundary? This could look like something that probably you're not concerned about, but it comes out and it gets to you. People who are filling forms like registration for national ID and other documents are required to name their villages. And many times that's when you call and say, what is the name of our village? Yeah. And then you start, calling other people back home. Oh, that's when you try to find out who the LC1 chairperson is, where the parish is. But you can get to know these things now. So that you know your units and
I think that's very important because people know names of places where they live and say Ndeba, Nigeria, Natete, Chaliwajara, and they do not know where in Chaliwajara, where in Namgongo, where in Weyogere.
And yet they have names, and like we were starting, we said an administrative unit is a geographical area by name. So you could say I'm in I talk about a place I know. I am in Bulenga. But now to know Bulenga, where is Bulenga located, other than seeing a signpost that this area is called Bulenga, it's in Nakabugo. That particular place is maybe in Nakabugo Parish or some other place, things like that. And it's in Wakiso district, and these are the structures. It's very important information. So we involve stakeholders. We don't work on it alone because we don't own the data, we don't own the information. And for that matter, maybe I could tell you straight away that we don't create even villages. But when villages have issues, they affect us. Because our mandate is to organize and conduct elections in verified, legally created administrative units for which there's even a statutory instrument signed by the minister that this village is created by law. So when there's a problem with a village, it gets back to us. We can't organize elections there, and then we will be all kinds of challenges, and even up to courts of law as petitions. So involve the Ministry of Local Government, we involve the district technical staff. There is a structure at the district with the Chief Administrative Officer, the Principal Assistant Secretaries, Senior Assistant Secretaries, Sub-County Chiefs. Each district and city has a district planner. Those people are very key in feeding us with information, and of course the local councils. Along the way, of course, even the residents are involved because we will display these lists. We want to remove all doubt. We want to make sure that by the time we go for LC1 elections, the database is harmonized and it is clean. And this information is very urgently needed.
Okay, very important. Doesn't the law, I think it's Article 61 of the Constitution that talks about the Electoral Commission, doesn't it permit you to create constituencies?
Electoral administrative units don't fall within this area.
Okay.
So, because that's now you're talking about the Parliamentary Elections Act and of course the EC Act and the Constitution. But the mother law for local governments and for administrative units areas is the Local Government Act. And it does not empower us to create villages.
Okay, so what legal framework are you now using to conduct this particular verification?
Of course, now we are working within our mandate as Electoral Commission using the Constitution or the mandate given to us by the Constitution. Then there's the Electoral Commission Act, there's the Local Government Councils Act, the Local Governments Act, which provides for these elections for local councils up to LC1. There's the National Women's Councils Act, which is very, very key, because the purpose we are harmonizing and verifying and confirming these areas is because we want to organize and conduct Women Councils Committees elections and administrative units elections, which is LC1 and LC2. So the Women Councils Act comes into play. It's one of the laws that we are looking at, as well as other regulations relating to those acts. And of course, the national health, the health regulations are still in place for COVID-19. So that's basically the framework and other laws with as they apply. We of course, because what's not provided, sometimes one act is borrowed from the other. With what they call necessary modifications. So we have a legal framework with those basic words to move us to do what we are doing. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that's very important. Are you working with the substantive now, LCs who are in the villages? And the other question here would be, and they also want influence, because they could have decisions to say, for example, my village is Zikusoka zone, and I would want to cross over to somewhere else, or where I live now, the Bukora village, Christopher Chirumira, my chairman. Are you working with them? Are you utilizing them? And don't you think they can also be very influential in as far as causing more trouble, especially because they want to defend their territory?
Yeah, we're involving them. That's why we've made this program public.
Sure.
And if you looked at our entire roadmap for this activity, one of the first actions we did was to train our staff, first of all. Then after that, we made district leadership, and we sensitized them and brought them on board and said, take this message back. This activity is not being done in secret. It's being done with the knowledge of the local leaders. We sent out the messages. And we're also going to involve them, because we're going to display these lists. The display is very, very important. That's when someone can raise an objection, so that it is an objection, whether inclusion or omission of an administrative unit. So the LC1 leaders, of course, are very important. We know their role, and we're going to tap into their knowledge and their issues, because they're the ones actually who raised issues in the first place. But of course, we also know that they are leaders. They could have interests. Someone may want to create another village because they want to find lost here, and now they want to contest. So we don't create villages. We won't get into the politics. We will look at administrative aspects and the harmonizing according to the law.
What do you expect to achieve at the end of this all? If you do a good exercise and the verifications have been confirmed, you've engaged stakeholders, what would you expect at the end of the exercise itself?
Now, when we finish all this, at the end of the exercise, we expect, very importantly, to have a harmonized list.
Okay.
A harmonized list is very, very important. Maybe to show why it is important, the Electoral Commission has a database of administrative units in Uganda. But it could be that the local government down there, in Buko, in Yumbe,
Oyam,
in Namaingo, Oyam, any district, or even a city, because there are 10 new cities that were created recently, and we've had issues around them. This parish belongs here, this parish belongs here. It could be that there is some aspect that is not captured in our database, because these are administrative unit elections. We last organized them in 2018, and between 2018 and 2021, when the Minister of Local Government put a stop to creation of administrative units, other units have come up. So we want to harmonize them and make sure that we speak in the same language. We're organizing elections for units that are owned either way, and they are established by law. So what we are going to achieve at the end of this is to confirm that existing administrative units have been legally created. That is by statutory instrument. Now, we've got complaints that this village was created by the family of so-and-so, the LC1. This LC was created because someone lost elections, and they decided to create their own LC1. And then, so we want to go back and say, is this LC1 Kenya zone created by law? Is there a statutory instrument
for Kenya zone?
For creation of Kenya zone. And when was it created? It could be that someone today is creating a village. But remember, there was a moratorium, there was a normal creation of villages. Then secondly, we want to confirm that the units are correctly located within the respectful sub-county, town council, municipal division, and parish or ward. Because one of the other disputes we had was related exactly to that. Some people would say, no, our village belongs to this parish. No, these villages belong to this parish. And we were not able to conduct some elections. There is a case like where we could not resolve some town council issues and other areas in Busesa, Uganda district. We had to stop the elections. Now that means that those people are not represented. Either they've not sent a councillor to the council or the town council or things like that. We want to resolve that. Then thirdly, we want to make sure that all administrative units' names are listed correctly, well spelled and well written. Those things are very, very important. This database that we'll create after the verification will feed all other government agencies because we share data. NIRA, which registers you for national ID. Now there is a parish development model, and there is a lot of information that government wants to put together so that when they transfer funds, it is rooted to right structures established in law. So it's a very critical exercise which is going to, if I could go to that benefits so many people, researchers, civil society organizations, the organizations that are doing community work, and want to know how many villages are in this sub-county where we're going to do a project. So there are so many things that are going to benefit. Then we want to harmonize if there's any variance. If we have 10 villages, there in your list you have 9. What is the problem? We have 10, you have 13. And then we'll address variances and see, so that we organize elections for those units. Then of course, we will also recommend for removal of a village that is not established but by law. It doesn't have a statutory instrument. We will recommend for its removal. We will not organize elections for it. That's how serious it is, because that's not established in law and we can be challenged and probably successfully so in courts of law, and then a lot of taxpayers' money goes. But to put it all together, we also need to know the exact number so that we plan. You know, we have officials who are going to be deployed. We don't want to recruit 70,000 village election officials when the villages are 8,000, 80,000 and all that, or higher or above or below. So that also helps in the planning and the budgeting and the deployment of staff. During the L1 elections, we will print lots of forms and registration books. We don't want to waste money because we've not gotten the right figures. So that's basically the purpose, and those are the benefits that we will get from the harmonized list.
Will you during the same time as you verify the administrative units, will you also do the verification of voters, or you'll come back another time to get into the verification of the voters, yet the election is next year in July?
When we finish verifying and confirming the units, then we are going to start the activities. Like I told you, the last activity is on May 13th, and the Women Council's elections start in June, mid-June.
This year?
So this year.
Because theirs is 4 years.
For them, they are 4 years, and it will go up to August. So that means when we finish verifying, we will be able to come back and say, these are the villages for which we are going to organize and conduct Women Council's elections. And then we will give them the registration books because they have their own register. And then we'll compile the village women residents register, which we'll use for purposes of the elections. Of course, later on, we will also come back to the same number and produce a register for each village for purposes of L1 elections. Then later on, during the next cycle of general elections, these are the villages that we'll use for conduct of village level elections for special interest groups like persons with disabilities, older persons, you know, what's the other? The others progress in a different way, like workers and so this is a place where we go for register for youth, for workers. I mean, for youth, persons with disabilities and older persons, because they come from the village and go up.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Paul Bukenya. We'll hold it here. Just take a break and return. Continue the conversation of talk about verification of administrative units of the Electoral Commission. We'll come back after this break.
Okay.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Inkonge, did you know that wasting water like that is causing harm to the environment? Did you know that water is vital for agriculture, industries, transport, energy, amidst other growing demands?
You mean water is that important?
Be in class now. Water resources are part of the environment, and their sustainable management and development is key in mitigating the increasing risks and shocks related to climate change. Join the Uganda Water and Environment Week 2022 from 28th to 25th March 2022 under the theme Water and Environment for Peace and Socio-Economic Transformation of Uganda, as we discuss the role of water and environment resource management and development in promoting peace and stability. The Uganda Water and Environment Week is organized by the Ministry of Water and Environment through the Water Resources Institute in collaboration with other partners. For more information, call 0782 662205 or 0753 153791.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Are your children ready to learn? Schools are open. As parents and guardians, it is your duty to ensure that your children go back to school. COVID-19 prevention measures have been put in place to keep students safe as they go back to school. Not only do teachers prioritize everyone's health, including their own, but they discourage violence among students. They also ensure that students follow SOPs. Any concerns are reported to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Dear parents and guardians, you too must play your role. Ensure your children always maintain a 2-meter distance from others, avoid crowded places, regularly wash their hands with soap and water, and wear a washed and clean face mask that covers their mouths and noses. Please keep your children at home if they're feeling sick, and take note. In our effort to keep students safe, there are no visitation days or any other school visits allowed. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, thank you so much and welcome back from the break. My name is Yaga Nasemakola Ziksoka with Mr. Paul Mukenya from the Electoral Commission, the spokesperson in there. And we talk about the verification of the national administrative units of the Electoral Commission, of course, and prepping ourselves for the elections next year, next year. It is this year and next year.
Yeah, well,
let's first of all come clear on that. We have elections this year and next year. Which are these?
Well, this year we have elections for women councils and committees. Women
councils. Across the country?
Across the country. And they are going to be held, we've released the program from June to August this year. A 3 months electoral program.
June to August
to progress from the village up to the national level, where we have elections for the National Women Council. And then we'll have elections for LC1. Technically next financial year, which means after the end of this financial year, but preparatory activities have started. But there are other progressive nominations, campaigns will be in next year, and the polling dates are in July of 2023. Yes.
Elections for local council 1 and local council 2.
Yes.
Which are 2s now? Local council ones are the villages.
Local council 1 is the village, or in the towns we call them cells, and then in cities and urban areas we call them cells. Then local council 2 is what we call a parish. Parish is a very common word.
Now
but
that
parish
we have the PDM.
Now that we have PDM.
Now, yes,
but in urban centers we call them wards. So when you hear that I stay in
Northern Ward,
I stay in what, it means that it's a parish. But in urban centers, we call them wards. But generally, people, I think, have taken on more the word parish because it is very, very easy. And,
and it's an old thing.
LC2 is the parish level.
Okay.
Yes.
And so these are 10,200 plus.
The LC2s that we have around now in the country, I have a figure here.
The parishes,
they're now,
10,000.
yeah, of course, in the cities, we have 431, if you combine all the 11 cities we have. And then when you come, 431 parishes.
In the cities.
Or wards, actually, they're called wards. And then in districts, that is the rural. We have 10,259, yeah. So that is the figure. About 10,600 parishes across the country.
So these are all the LC2s?
All LC2s.
Okay, these are going to be the LC2s.
Those are the LTs that we have in our database at the moment.
Okay.
Now, if there is any issue,
the verification is supposed to help you plus
it will
or minus.
help us to do a plus or a minus. Yeah, and that's why we've presented our figures. We say that as at 2022, or for purposes of 2021, when we are organizing and finalizing units, we had those figures. Now, some of them probably fall under the categories that were contested and disputed, but they're on the system, which is why we are coming back to verify, confirm. And like I mentioned, one of the things that we will do is to recommend for removal of any unit that is not established in law.
Okay.
If that is, it does not have a statutory instrument.
Okay.
Yes.
Very important. So what's a procedure of verification?
The procedure, like I've outlined, includes some aspects that are technical. We sit and compare databases. Electoral Commission has a database. Ministry of Local Government has at the center, they have a database. Then the districts have their data, their lists. So the first item is to look at those databases. Are they in harmony? Where there's an issue, things like that. Then, of course, we, as Electoral Commission, have printed out our lists, and part of the procedure will be taking the list to the districts, and they meet the district technical people. This includes the COW, the assistant COW, the principal assistant secretaries. These are the people who are in charge of those areas, because you know you're a sub-county chief. So you know the villages which are in your sub-county, or at least you know even the issues which are in your sub-county, including issues of contention, this boundary, the name, the location, it's a conservation area, it's a wildlife area. So those are the people who are going to help us. But you know, like I said earlier on, each district and city has a planner. They are planning units, and they will also be helpful because they help to draw, they are familiar and they help to draw up programs for development, and they know the parishes, they know their boundaries, they even know the issues around. So the procedure will involve meeting them, harmonizing, and filling forms and identifying issues. If this, ticking the boxes, if I could say, if this is okay, you tick it out. If this is okay, you tick it. If this is okay, then if there's something is questionable, we do so, we question it, and we go backwards. Is there a statutory instrument? What exactly is the problem? Why is there? What did the local council resolution say about creation of this village? And then, of course, after that, we will produce a list which we will display. We're going to conduct a display at the sub-county. The display will enable us to participate now as a public. We'll say the displayed list of administrative units for your sub-county are up at the sub-county. Go and look at them. If you have any issue, if you have any complaint, bring it to the attention of the Electoral Commission. So that display helps you to confirm the particulars that you've captured. And the display will take place from the 11th to the 20th of April. It's a very, very important activity.
That was actually going to be my next question of how we, the public, shall know the verified units, and how do we even access that information to actually know that I belong here, and this is it.
So we'll display these lists at each sub-county. Of course, we'll also use other platforms, our website, and some other accessible digital platforms, so that people can access them. But it's important because during display, that's when people also raise objections. That's when objections can come up that, oh, our village is omitted, or this village is included when it should not be. So we will be going through those processes. And then after that, of course, we will expect to create a finalized list, and we will disseminate it. One of the areas I didn't mention when you talked about legal framework is political parties. The political parties require this information because they're going to organize candidates. They're going to nominate candidates to present candidates for these elections. So parties, it's important that parties get to know the units in time, which is why we are disseminating.
Because they need to fill their own candidates
because they need
all these elective positions.
Yeah, they need to know that we have 70,000 villages across the country. We need to prepare so many candidates. So the last stage in the process, because you asked about the process, will be to disseminate this information officially to political parties, and to local government, and of course make it available for other users, like we mentioned, organizations, state actors, non-state actors who may want to refer to it. And that will conclude the program on May 13th, and then the first level of elections, which is women elections, will be conducted in June, from June up to August this year.
So have you discussed the materials that are needed for this verification so far?
The materials they're already in the field because we've started the activity today.
Oh, okay.
So the
verification.
The field-based activity, like I mentioned, some technical aspects have been handled here centrally, but now the field technical aspects where we meet district leadership, the activity starts today and it will last 10 days. So all the materials they need, including forms where they can put objections or other issues, recommendations, were all dispatched. And the lists were also dispatched.
So what are you doing between today and 13th May, as you talk about? So what are these activities that you're going to be doing that involve us, that require participation, the stakeholders, etc., that you're going to be running for us to actually know that we should be getting prepared to belong?
For now, of course, what's going on right now is that the lists are out there. They've gone to the field, and your leaders at the district level are working with the Electoral Commission to verify and confirm and harmonize, and like we said, address any variance and also remove what is not established by law, or include what is established by law but is omitted at the moment. So it is important to know, and to if it's possible for you to get involved, you can visit your district, and at this point it's at the district level. But of course, the other issue is to prepare yourself if you know that you've had a complaint or you've had disputes about your boundary. This is the time to prepare to present those issues, because after the activity of verification, we will have our teams process this data and then display it. And during the display, it's when we receive complaints. It's very important. Either come out and tell us that there is an issue with this area, and then we will be able to address it. But of course, the other levels, processing data, in-house, the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
But on the 13th of May, we will have sent out all this information to you now, the public. So I think you need to know about this program so that you follow it up and raise your issues around your village. I know some of us who are viewing have some issues that we would love to see resolved around our villages where we stay. This is the time.
Yes. What specific roles do you have for the members of the public, away from the leaders? Because we talk about the leaders, the cow, the members of, councillors, etc. But I'm looking at we, the Wananchi. We just the members. I'm not an LC chairperson. I'm not on the Kachiko. I'm not intending to be a candidate whatsoever. But I'm just a member of the public. What do you expect from us?
I think we want the support of the public, first of all, to ensure that we have correct and accurate data. This is your village. This is your village. First of all, make sure you know your village, and then also help us to ascertain which is around your village. That's a very important role that members of the public have. And of course, you cannot do that by presenting your issues officially. If you have an issue, for example, an objection, for omission or inclusion. The other role we have to do and to play is to support the exercise and accept the outcome of it. It's very, very important that we accept the outcome of it, and because we are going to have elections immediately after this exercise. So we would love the members of public to prepare. If they have any issues, then present them to us. That's your role, to raise issues that you would love to see us resolve. The other role is to support the people who are doing this process. This is not the time to ask for a new village, at least not the Electoral Commission does create villages. But besides that, the Minister for Local Government put a stop to creation of districts, cities, municipalities and sub-counties and parishes and villages. There is a letter to that effect, stopping all of that April 2021.
So it's not the time to ask. It's not the time to ask for.
Yeah. So we also want their cooperation and their understanding, because that's very important. If the public maintains does not rather given this support, we will not have a successful verification. Much of the data we need, the issues we want to resolve, come from you members of the public. That's your role, to inform us, to tell us that there's an issue here, so that we resolve it before we start the elections.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, when we get to the elections themselves, how shall the elections be conducted when it comes to that time? Are they going to be like the ones that we had in 2018, or these are actually going to be by secret ballot?
The law that governs these elections will, of course, determine how we organize them. The Women Council's elections, from the village, parish to the sub-county, are by lining up. Of course, at the district and later on for National Women Council, it is secret ballot. The law in place for L1 elections is still by lining up behind a candidate of your choice. It is still in force, and that's what we're going to use, because that's the law that is present right now.
How plausible was it last time? Because we had issues of when Uganda doesn't stand before or behind Kenya, then of course Kenya will know Uganda is a traitor, he's not my friend, and when it goes through, then we'll have problems. And now we are ending a whole term thereafter. How plausible was it, and what have you had from the exercise that we've had? All our worries, have we seen them come through, or we were just only running it from a paper tiger?
One of the worries that we saw, one of the issues, is what we're trying to address through this verification, the disputes and all that. So I think that one is a lesson learned, and we want to address them. The other issues relate heavily to voter education nature, that there is understanding and acceptance of the mode of election. But I also want to say that eventually Ugandans stand up for L1 elections. And they were held. They were held, and there are L1 leaders who are in office legally and lawfully, and they're giving service. So I think that was good. There were so many conversations around it, and some reservations, and of course some comments that this will not be successful. But again, it turned out that the L1 elections were contested. First of all, there were candidates, and then and political party candidates for that matter, including independents, of course, and then there was turn-up. So one of the things we want to do is to make sure that all those issues that we saw, what about a big village? What about a village which had a very, very big turn-up, a big register? How was the registration done? Was it successful? What challenges did we see? Those are some of the issues we're going to be addressing. Of course, L1 elections guidelines are not yet out. We've shown the timelines because they are in law. They are predictable elections. We know that they will be held in August of 2023. So I will be breaking down the particular aspects as we move into that exercise. But for now, I think what you need to know is that Women Council's elections, from the village level, parish, up to the sub-county, are by lining up. And the parties can present candidates, or candidates can come as independents. Of course, there are sets of guidelines that we've put up for that election. Then the LC elections will also be by lining up from L1, of course, it will be by lining up behind the candidate of your choice. So that's how we are. That's the law in place. Those are the guidelines that still exist, and we'll be breaking them down more and addressing those issues. Security, COVID-19, big crowds, the locations for the polling day, all lessons that we learned.
Okay. Of course, you also have challenges of funding. I don't think you have enough money. Do you have enough money? Does the Electoral Commission have enough money to do this? There are always issues of...
enough money is very interesting.
Enough money is very interesting. So
yeah. But we presented a budget to Parliament. We presented a budget to Parliament indicating what is required to smoothly organize the elections, and because like I've given you timeline, these elections that are going to be conducted in the next financial year, which is 2022-2023, because actual polling is in July 2023, and by that time you've already finished
much of the exercise. Okay, very important. And finally, what is the ideal number of elected leaders for a district, if you know? It can be, of course, districts vary in sizes.
Districts vary, yes. It depends on areas that are represented, the district, how many, and that's why we're going back to administrative units. How many sub-counties does
In a
district
place,
have,
exactly.
which are represented?
How
at
many
the-
zones, villages or so?
Then when you come to the sub-county itself, how many parishes have sent in councillors? And then the special interest groups. Because we have special interest groups represented at the district level and at the sub-county. Then now when we come down to the lower local government, how many villages do we have? And then how many parishes do we have in this district? It has 70 parishes, it has 55 parishes, and so many villages. So we according to our database, which is why we have the breakdown that we looked at, 70,512 villages. Each district has a certain number of villages. Very high numbers, very medium numbers, and some low numbers, depending on their population and where they are demarcated.
Okay, and you know I ask that because I see so many leaders, elected leaders, and if all of them are doing what they're supposed to be doing, I think this country would be very far away.
We have more than 1.8 million elected leaders at the end of general elections. When we do both from president up to LC1, the total number of elected leaders is actually goes into 1.8 million. So that includes all the councillors, the members of parliament, and the parish leaders, like you say, the special interest groups leaders. When we put the entire total, it's of course it's a high number. So leaders need to lead like they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be leaders, and then us to support them. And then, like you said, it will advance our country.
Very good.
Yeah.
Final comment?
Yeah, thank you for watching this program and following these issues. It's very important that we participate in the verification in whatever way. You may not sit in an office in Kampala with the technical team, but you know the issues around your village. This is the time to bring it out. When we start rolling out the elections, it will not be possible to go back. That means you'll be going to courts of law. But right now, it is possible for you to raise an objection that our village is included or it is not included. It's omitted, and that matter can be addressed. And the other issues that we talked about, village name, location, and all those other things. It's our time now to do that. After that, the Electoral Commission will be rolling out the electoral programs. And like you know, after LC1 elections will already be, which is in 2023, will already be rolling into the roadmap for general elections 2026. And you know that general elections are also predictable. They're in January 2026. So much of the work will come to 25 and 24. Okay. So I think take interest in the verification and help us to have a clean, harmonized list of administrative units across the country.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paul Wikenya is the Public Relations Manager for Electoral Commission of Uganda. We thank you so much for being with us here. And of course, the exercise is on. It starts today.
It starts today.
And it rolls up until the 13th of May.
Of May, yeah.
Yes, the public is called upon to belong, to be part of it, and of course to ensure that, yes, you make it, harmonize the processes and make sure that when it comes to the time, you do not have disputes of, I belong here, I belong here. You do not want Kenya to contest and you say, no, you're from village B. And this is village A. People need to know actually where they stay. Yes. And very important. When Mama Naba was giving us money, many people were demanding to actually have the money at LCs. And amazingly, they didn't even know who their chairpersons were. Even the villages, you could ask somebody and somebody just says Nzembira. And you can't just stay there everywhere. But thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Can you end the conversation here? And next time we need to know more about these issues. We will invite Mr. Paul. Can you talk to us again? My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka. Blessings for today. Shalom.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you too.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.